And we are back, and we just finished watching 2015's The Witch, rated R, with a runtime of 1 hour and 32 minutes. This is currently streaming on the new Max and is coming from writer-director Robert Eggers. This stars Anya Taylor-Joy as Thomasin, the eldest daughter of British settlers into the New World. William, played by Ralph Ineson, and Kate Dickie as Catherine, who, along with their other children, have, I guess, inhabited this communal plantation, but I guess the father has been very abrasive, and in the opening sequence you see them being, I guess, kicked out of the community.
Yeah, they're banished because I believe he thought he knew better than they did as far as like worshiping, and
right.
They weren't worshiping hard enough for him.
Yeah, there we go again with the religious fever. So they're banished. They go out into the wilderness and come upon this clearing where in the backdrop you see like a bunch of trees.
Yeah,
it's very
like
dense.
A clearing right before a very thick wood.
Yeah, and they set up, I guess, their new home here. It seems like things are going okay in the beginning. I mean, this is 1600s.
I mean, it must have been going because they didn't have the twins when they left the town.
They did.
They did? I didn't see.
They didn't have Sam.
They didn't have Sam, but they had the twins? Because I don't remember seeing them at all.
Yeah.
Like even on the back of the cart, it was just the three, the mother, the daughter, and the son.
No, I think they had the other kids. It just, you don't really notice them.
I guess they weren't. Were they in the church? Because I only remember Thomasin and Caleb in the church.
I thought the other kids were there too.
I don't remember seeing them. All right. Either way. But yeah, while they're there, they have another child, Sam.
Yeah.
Who's a very little baby.
And something happens with Sam. I mean, this is almost 10 years now, this movie.
Yeah, I mean, we could probably speak to it. The baby disappears while Thomasin is watching it, and you don't really know what happened. She's like playing peekaboo with the kid, and
suddenly the baby's not there.
The kid's gone, and the only indication you have that something took him is like a branch sort of waving.
But then from here, things for the family go horribly wrong.
Things start, it's like
just spiraling out of control.
Just hits in full effect, and the crops go bad. The goats not making milk.
The children are fighting.
There's basically the father realizes, we're gonna die unless we can get some extra food. So he concocts some plan to go hunting or trapping for food and for pelts, and that goes about as well as everything else in these people's lives. Not very. And things ensue because, as you know, back in those days, if things went bad,
you could expect them
something
to keep
wicked
going.
was the cause of it.
Right.
It wasn't anything else. It was let's start freaking out about witches and superstition and
the
stuff.
Devil
and the devil, and maybe this case
it did happen.
Yeah.
This is your first time watching it. What did you think?
I thought it was really good. I like I like films like this where you have like this sense of like dread
throughout.
Yeah. It was filmed in a way that was very bleak. You could see that life was not pleasant for these folks.
But still pretty.
Good on the dad for building all that infrastructure. I mean, Jesus. Yeah. They had a house. They had a little barn. It looked like he was building another little barn. Mm-hmm. They somehow ended up getting some goats. I guess, they had chickens.
They had everything,
They had everything. They were trying to grow corn, but the corn did not look too appealing.
No,
it was very sparse and emaciated.
Maybe looking. That was the beginning of the bad streak, when the corn, because then after the corn is when Samuel disappears, right? Or maybe Samuel disappeared first.
Samuel was the first thing.
He was the catalyst.
He was the catalyst for all the bad stuff happening. And poor Samuel.
Yeah. So that's why I think like it's real.
Yeah. No. I believe
Yeah.
everything that happened is
Yeah.
it actually happened. It wasn't like just
And even the
hallucinations and
ending, because
whatnot.
it's like it was still wild. Like I remember the first time I saw it, and I was like, "What am I watching?" But on further rumination on it, it all made sense. You also mentioned the little placard at the end where they say that a lot of that stuff was taken from folklore and written
accounts. And the language itself was like derived from that.
Yeah,
because they did speak in like
that old English,
that old Englishy sort of way, to the point where at some point I was like contemplating turning on subtitles.
Especially I was surprised when you didn't.
Yeah, especially with the dad.
Because
not only were they speaking in that way, but he had like the deepest freaking voice.
Yeah,
and you combine that old English, deep voice, thick accent. You're really concentrating when you're listening to pop.
Yeah, for sure.
Everybody else I can understand pretty clearly.
Yeah,
and like I enjoyed it. I liked it a lot. It was like I said, it definitely builds up like this sense of dread. I guess you could sort of feel a bit. You could either take it at face value, or you could sort of like try and read into it as far as like what's actually happening. I think it's pretty evident by the end that this was more than just
bad luck. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, especially the damage that you see when like the father wakes up at the end and he goes outside right before the ending.
Yeah.
And you see the shape of that
little
little pen where they kept the animals and whatnot. Yeah, that was more than I think any member of that family could have done.
Yeah.
I mean, they were children or teenagers basically. So there's no way you could have done that level of
damage.
So something else was going on. And then at the end, that was, you see some freaky stuff.
Yeah.
You see some freaky stuff going on there.
Yeah.
I'm guessing, I mean, a spoiler, I'm guessing the twins died.
They had to have.
Because you don't
see their bodies.
You don't see anything as far as that goes. You only hear, oh, you got their blood on your hands, but was it their blood or was it the father's blood?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think at that point the mother was also crazy with
the mother
grief.
was nuts, but did the mother like succumb? Because
there's that scene where she thinks she's seeing Caleb and Samuel, right?
Yeah. And there is mention of the book.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if like they would show like when at the end when they show the book, like would you see the mother's name? But they didn't. They weren't like that wasn't part of it. But then again, the mother was still like, "Oh my God, you're evil, you're evil."
Right.
So I don't know.
I think the mother was just crazed with grief.
Yeah,
I think she was just crazed with grief, and she just needed someone to blame. I mean, did you hear that? Like at the end when they're fighting, she's like, I know that you tried to seduce your brother and your father," and I'm like, where are you getting this from?
Yeah, well, apparently just standing around is seducing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are scenes where you see Caleb staring at his sister's
but that's what I mean.
Chest. So it's like,
but she's not doing anything.
No,
it's not like as though he's
just being
pulling
a young
her
boy.
shirt down or anything, or like what that. Like when Caleb went in the woods and saw that other lady, she's just like bending over and it's like, hey, check out the cleavage, kid.
Yeah.
She was just, I mean, one scene she's just sleeping and one other scene she's scrubbing her father's dirty pants.
Clothes.
You know?
Yeah. But
that was all on Caleb there.
Yeah. Well, he was just being a boy.
He was just being a teenage boy.
Yeah.
In the middle of nowhere.
Right. With no other humans about. Yeah, I remember the first time seeing this and really liking it a lot. I don't consider it a horror movie, though. I know that it comes up sometimes as horror, but I don't think... I mean, there's elements of horror, but I don't know that I would consider this a horror movie.
I think it falls under that umbrella because, the Sam's fate, just the tension, the supernatural elements, people are being killed. I think it does fall under that. It's definitely not like the scariest thing.
No,
like there's definitely other films that carry that sense of dread to the point where you're just like, oh my God, what was that in the kitchen? Did I hear something?
Right.
This was more on the surface, straightforward. But yeah, I think it does fall under horror. It's not. I don't think you're going to be scared by it, but it definitely falls.
It's creepy.
It's creepy. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a creepy bleakness to it. A sense of dread. You wonder if this family is going to survive, even if there wasn't any sort of
supernatural
element. It's like, how are these people going to live? Is this guy's definitely going to have to eat his pride and return back to that plantation and beg them to let them stay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it definitely qualifies as horror.
All right. I never really, I don't know. I guess, I think the first time I watched it, I didn't exactly think, but you're right. I mean, Sam's fate is horrific. So, but in my mind, I don't know. Like, I think the first time I watched it, like, not that I didn't believe that it was happening. I just thought, like, maybe this is something that someone thinks is maybe happening. But obviously it had to have happened because it's told through a different POV, right?
Yeah.
And none of the family would know what was happening to Sam.
Yeah. And it wasn't like some sort of clean end, that was
Yeah.
So yeah, it definitely falls into that horror realm.
Yeah, I guess, you know what, because again, like I said, the first time I saw it, like, I wasn't as much as stuff happening to children bothers me, like, for some reason that didn't, or at least the first time I see it, it didn't really impact me. And then the ending just seemed too unbelievable, I guess. So I think in my mind, I thought that this was all in her head. It was a way of explaining.
I think we're sort of trained to sort of wonder that. But there was just other stuff going on that you could not say, oh, that's just in her head. Like, especially with Caleb.
Right.
Like his end.
Yeah.
I mean, how would that have happened?
Yeah.
How would he be participating in this sort of thing? And how would that thing come out of him? And also the little kids. And plus, one thing that I remember that I sort of like wondered, did I hear that? Was when those little kids were running around chasing Black Phillip.
Right.
They were like singing that song, and like I'm pretty sure one of the lyrics was "We serve you."
Yeah.
So
that comes back because in that scene with Caleb, Thomasina basically throws them under the bus and is like, they're the ones that have made this alliance with the
devil,
goat, which is symbolic of the devil, right? Exactly.
I mean, look at that thing.
Yeah.
I mean, even as goats go, that was a
crazy looking animal.
I don't know if they added prosthetics to that thing, but that
he was creepy. Yeah. But you know what else was creepy? The rabbit in the woods.
The rabbit was creepy. I mean, they both had those
crazy eyes.
Yeah. Yeah. So they were definitely like, maybe they were the same thing even. I don't even know.
Yeah. 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 I could believe it. I mean, so the first time I saw this, I think it's funny. This time that I'm watching it, I was just a passenger, I think. I was just consuming it at face value. But I think the first time I watched it by myself. I think it was late. My mind was playing tricks on me. And I think the first time I watched it, I was under the interpretation that she was so unhappy with her life that it was almost like she wished that her family would go away so that she could now have a different life. And I guess the reason I rationalized that kind of conclusion was because towards the end, when she's talking to Black Phillip and he says, do you want pretty dresses? Do you want to travel? Do you want to do all these things? Right? It was almost like by unencumbering herself of the family, of the familial duties, because even though she was the oldest child, she was still expected to be an adult. She had to take care of her younger siblings. She had a pretty decent amount of chores and responsibilities around the house. I mean, Caleb, as the oldest son, had things to do, like as far as like I guess maintaining the crops and going out hunting with his dad. But it seemed like Thomasina's lot in life was harder.
Yeah.
So I felt like, and especially being a young girl, like I was the youngest, so I never had that responsibility of taking care of a younger sibling, but she is the oldest. She's older than Caleb. She's older than Mercy. She's older than Jonah. She's older than Sam. So she almost becomes like the second mother. And this is not a role that she asked for. This is something that is expected of her, that has been put into her bucket of responsibility. So I can see where she would have some kind of resentment about that. And in my mind, I guess you remember the David Bowie movie. Was it Labyrinth, right? In the beginning of that movie, she's forced to watch her younger sibling and she hates it. And when Jared comes, she basically said like, oh, I just don't want to be bothered with this kid. So he takes the baby. And then she realizes what a mistake it was. And she goes on her adventure to get her little brother back. But anyway, so in my mind, I guess I rationalized it that she, not maliciously, but in her mind was like, oh, just I hate my family. I wish this wasn't my life, kind of thing. So that when people start disappearing, it almost kind of excuses it in her head, right? And then by the end, she's unencumbered completely. And I think the other thing was she had blood on herself, and it was obviously from her mother, but I also wondered if maybe she was somewhat responsible.
Responsible for like how? What do you mean?
For the things that happened to the other members of her family.
Well, that's the thing. She was not how would she have done what happened to Caleb?
I think that if she hadn't been on that trip with him, he probably wouldn't have, obviously he wouldn't have lingered in the woods as long as he did, and he would have come back. That was another thing about Caleb. Like, he was for a young child, like a young boy, he was very responsible and very...
Yeah, Caleb was a genuinely good kid to the point where he knew that sometimes you have to break the rules to do the right thing. Like
lying to the mother.
Like lying to the mother, making her feel okay.
Yeah.
Obviously covering a bit for the dad.
Right.
Also getting up early and going out to check those traps.
Right.
Because the father was not good. He would put the trap and he would just leave it there.
Right.
And I think Caleb understood, no, you got to go get the stuff, because if you leave an animal in a trap dead, it's going to get devoured by something else.
Right.
So he was a smart kid. He was a responsible kid. I don't know if it mattered that Thomasin was with him, because you
think his fate would have been the same had she been with him or without him?
It was this. Well, I mean, it was the same thing that happened with the dad. The rabbit showed up. Mm-hmm. And in the case with the dad tried to shoot the rabbit, and he's pathetic, and he ended up burning his own eye.
Yeah.
In this case, the dog chased after the rabbit, and he went after the thing. He was still trying to get that rabbit.
And then the dog got
the dog
killed.
Yeah, the dog got killed, but the rabbit didn't kill that dog. Somebody else killed that dog, and the horse went nuts and bucked Thomasin off the horse, and she got knocked out.
And then the horse disappeared, because then they were like, they don't even have a horse.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the horse. All right, like I'm fully in this. Everything is the supernatural is completely on the table. That rabbit.
Yeah, was
evil.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
The horse knew it.
Yeah.
The horse
was like, we're out.
The horse was the guy in the film who was just like, I'm the only one here with common sense. I'm getting the hell out of here right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
The horse wasn't the one who's like, let's go check the basement. What's that weird noise? I don't know. Let's split up and check the house.
Or let's go towards the noise.
Yeah. The horse is the one who's just like, there's a car right there. Let's get in the car and leave. Yeah.
The horse is that parrot. Hell nah.
Yeah, exactly. Hell nah. Nah, hell no. And I bet the horse is the only one that lived.
I hope so.
The horse is living the high life right now.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, so as far as like her being responsible for any of this, I don't believe she was. Mm-hmm. I think by the end, it was just sort of like why not? I mean, because
she doesn't have a family anymore.
Because throughout the film, they demonstrate she has her doubts. Even in the very first scene, she's just standing there in the church after the family leave, and Caleb is like, "Come on, we got to go."
Go, right.
She didn't want to go. She didn't want any part of this nonsense.
Right.
And then she's confessing, and I'm idle during my work. I think about breaking all the commandments, like all of them. You're not just like lying to my mom and dad, but like I think about breaking all of them, including like murdering and stealing and everything. So she's a good kid, but she's in a shit situation that she clearly did not want to be in. And after all of that, after all the crap that she has to go through, because it's instantly she's blamed for everything.
Yeah, the mother comes down on her hard.
She's blamed for freaking everything by everyone. And why wouldn't you want to leave that? Especially by the end.
Right.
It's sort of like, what else do I have? Yeah. If I left right now, if she left and went to the plantation, they probably would have just burned her to death or stoned her.
At the plantation?
Yeah. Oh. They would have blamed her for everything. This girl comes out of the woods, blood. Oh, the goat was evil, and I had to kill my mom because she went nuts, and the baby got kidnapped, but you're fine, right?
Yeah.
Of course they would be like, witch.
Yeah.
This wasn't even like Ben Franklin days. This was like Pilgrim days.
Yeah.
Pilgrims
were the worst.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. They were like religious zealots. There's a reason why England was just like, get the hell out of here.
Yeah. Take your nonsense
with you. It's like, oh, you guys you're not worshiping God hard enough.
Yeah.
All right, if you don't like it, get the fuck out.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's
and
that
it was
scene.
The same thing with him, the family. He's telling the people on the plantation, you're not worshiping God hard enough.
Yeah.
And they're like, all right, fine.
Get the hell out.
Get out. Take your family with you.
And I agree with you. And then there's that scene with Caleb, I guess, in the sickbed or whatever, where the father basically says, let's pray, and then nothing can hurt us. Like, prayer alone is going to save this situation.
Yeah. And that clearly was not the case.
Right. And even the mother was like, this kid has been bewitched.
Yeah. I mean, if any sort of higher power was invested in this family, it certainly wasn't God.
It took a break. Yeah.
So, I don't think she was involved in any of it.
Do you think that Black Phillip had his eye on Thomasina from the start, or
not really, because it was,
or he was just waiting around to see who the last man standing was, and then make a pact?
You know what? I in my mind, I think when she made her confession, and because it wasn't like she was in a building or hidden away, it was like in a field. Mm-hmm. I think that was sort of like the opening, because it was just like, okay, if something is out there listening, watching this family, and it hears this person saying these things, mm-hmm. It's sort of like, that's a way in. That's what they say. You got to invite the devil in or the evil in or something like that. And I think that she was more open to it than anybody else in the family. I mean, you could say, okay, the twins, but they're children. Mm-hmm. And not only are they, God, they were little bastards. They were just running around, ignoring everybody, singing. And the fact that nobody was like, what are they singing?
Yeah.
Like, who the hell taught them this song?
Yeah.
About Black Phillip.
Yeah.
You'd figure that the mom would have just beaten the crap out of them, or at least the dad, once they hear that. But I guess they were just they're just kids. They're innocent kids.
Yeah. They don't really have kids to take care of them. I mean, it was like the mother's knee-jerk reaction was like, you're supposed to be watching your brother and sister.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think that confession was sort of like
the gateway,
the way in. And then after that, Sam disappears.
Yeah. Everything
the
else
crops
goes to
go
hell.
bad. The traps are empty. The father proves what an incompetent hunter he is. He can't catch anything.
Caleb meets his fate.
Caleb disappears. He comes back. Is sick and bewitched. Mm-hmm.
The mother's slowly going crazy.
Mother's going crazy. Her kids are dying around her. And like even more cruel, the fact that it seemed like he was like recovering right at the end with all the Jesus talk.
Yeah.
And then gone.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, why would God give you that little glimmer of hope there and then pull the rug out from under you?
Yeah. What do you think happened with Thomasina and Jonas? I mean, not Thomasina, with Mercy and Jonas in that scene when they're all in there with Caleb, when they just sort of like pass out.
That was what I believe really convinced Thomasina that what these kids were like singing about and whatever was true, because they said we can't say our prayers, we can't say them. And in my mind, okay, if you are truly in league with any sort of thing, especially in this universe of supernatural rules and whatever, if you're in league with the devil, you're not going to be able to say the Lord's Prayer. It's like putting your hand on the Bible or doing any sort of whatever weird witch test there is. And the fact that they just like freaked out and just fell down while the family was like praying, that seemed to be evidence of that. And maybe that's what convinced Thomasina what was going on. So yeah, I mean, but like I said, it's different because if you're trying to bring somebody in, you want it somebody who's
corruptible,
older, rational, somebody who lived a good life but has doubts. Children, it's different. It's sort of like, hey, you want candy? Yay! They have no real moral compass, their moral compass has not developed yet. They're just running around like savages, exactly. Yeah. So they're basically fodder.
Yeah.
I mean, they would just probably be if they were the ones left standing at the end when they got to that bonfire, they'd be getting cut up and worn as skins and whatever the hell they were doing to innocents.
1 to 10.
I'd give this an 8.
I too would give this an 8. It from start to finish, it is quite the journey. I think the nice thing here is you have an interpretation of it. I have my initial interpretation of it. I think as an audience, you bring your own experiences to the storytelling experience as well. And you can deduce many options and possibilities as far as the story goes. So I think Eggers does a really great job here of presenting a story that can be viewed from multiple vantage points, and you can kind of create your own scenarios about. I think, you know what, you're right. I think obviously the supernatural element is real, so I guess this is more of horror.
Yeah.
I don't know what I considered it the first time I watched it.
Well, like you said, you can, if you wanted to interpret it as
different things,
some sort of psychological thing, you know, where it's all in somebody's head. But just basically, like for me, going by the physical evidence of what's happening around, I kind of ruled that out. Like in the beginning, I was like, maybe that whole sequence with what happens to Sam was just sort of like a one-off, a fantasy or a envisioning of what possibly could have happened. But
by the end,
after the stuff that you see, the damage, the events, it's clearly just not something in somebody's head. Yeah, good choice. Excellent. I would probably of the 3 films of his that I've seen, I think I like this one the best.
Yeah.
It's more of a straightforward story.
Yeah.
Like I like The Lighthouse, but it got really weird there at the end.
Sure. I think that's why I like it so much, because it's just so bananas.
Yeah. No, I love that film is just nuts. Yeah. I still like that film, but like The Norseman was just far too muddy for me. It was not. I couldn't like root for anybody. It was just so morally ambiguous. I mean, where even the hero is a child murderer. It's like, okay.
It'll be interesting to see what Eggers does with Nosferatu.
Yeah.
Hopefully Willem Dafoe is in the cast as something.
I'm sure it'll look good.
Yeah. His movies definitely look pretty. There's something,
All
yeah.
right.
I agree with you about bleakness in this film.
Yeah. You're out in nature. It could have been pretty. It could have been beautiful, but it always looked overcast.
Yeah.
Like
was never a sunny
ever
day.
a sunny day?
No.
Yeah, no.
Maybe before all the events, but you never see it in this portion of these people's lives.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I think again, even though it was a pretty movie, I also felt like The Norseman was bleak.
It was bleak, but you definitely got to see like vistas and
colors
things like
and
that,
stuff.
And colors.
Yeah, more so than this one.
More
This
so
one,
than
this one's very Spartan. It's interesting watching.
Which is fitting considering you're dealing with like pilgrims and stuff like that.
Yes.
Or people of that nature.
Yeah. Every time I watch stuff like this, I'm like, I couldn't have survived in this time.
I can't imagine.
I cannot imagine. Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
everything. I mean, those kids, they slept on dirt in the house.
On hay. Yeah. All of them, all 4 of them in that one room.
Yeah. I mean, at least the parents got like the loft with an actual bed.
Yeah.
Although who knows what that bed was filled with.
Bed bugs. Lice.
Vermin.
Fleas. Yeah. I mean, it's not like people were very sanitary back then.
No.
And how often did people bathe? Maybe like once a month, if that. That's even probably generous.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no concept of time or every day blends into the next. It's really all about survival and making it to the next day.
It's we have to work really hard now because in the winter we could possibly all die.
All die, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you run out of food or whatever, or disease comes, or
Yeah. I mean, they're like when that kid was sick, she's like using this like dirty old knife to bleed him in a bowl and stuff.
Yeah.
And that was
what was the point of that? I mean,
I'm sure. I think it was to get the poisons out of your body or something. There was like some belief that bleeding people or leeching them took the toxins out of you, or if you were super religious, the evil spirits.
Mm-hmm.
But all it did was make you sicker.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. I could see that. All right. So 8 and 8, definitely, if you have not seen it, Edgar's first foray into storytelling, The Witch from 2015, rated R with a runtime of, what did I say? 1 hour and 32 minutes. You can find this currently streaming on Max. Again, The Witch, or as it's titled here on IMDb, The Witch, A New England Folktale. Very creepy, very strange, but very good. And that's it from us, and we will bid you all a
Good night.
good night.